more information. I'm meteorologist John Weatherby.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures. I'm your host, and it must be Friday. And it is. Indeed, it is Friday. The first Friday of October. It is October 6th. And if you're just joining us for the very first time, Health Futures, our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And we do this by bringing extraordinary guests onto the show. And I want to just get right into this because the guest I have here today was here on August 4th, and we covered a number of different topics, and the topics really centered around pain and managing pain and this opioid crisis. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to our listening audience. I've got Dr. Ben Bobrow. Dr. Ben Bobrow is the Chief Medical Officer for a company called thepainproject.com. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Good. Thank you, Bob. Great to be here.
It's good to have you back. And, you know, there is so much going on in our society, and pain takes many different forms. And some of it is emotional pain, a lot of it's physical pain, and I think, it goes without saying, because I want to get into the opioid issue, but I want to talk about the pain that our country is feeling right now after what happened earlier this week in Las Vegas. And I know the news is not good, and everybody's trying to get answers to why this guy in Las Vegas, and for the life of me, I don't know why we even say his name, and we shouldn't even give him that courtesy, but took the lives of 58 people and injured over 500 people. And, you know, you shared with me before you started the show, you worked at one of the trauma centers right there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I did. I spent 6 years working in the trauma center at University Medical Center in Las Vegas. And so I know those folks really well. And, I talked to them this week, and it was a crazy week for them, indescribable. And I know so many people all over the country, even all over the world, are still trying to process this. They're trying to come to terms with it, and it's in a lot of ways it's unimaginable, trying to process it. And so I've talked to so many people that are struggling with this right now. So I appreciate you bringing the topic up and being willing to talk about it.
No, I want to talk about it because I think, to your point, I think everyone's trying to figure out why. How do we do this? And I think the best word to describe it's evil. It's evil as evil can be. And I think if we try to figure out why, I don't think we're going to get the answers.
Yeah, maybe for sure, the whys are a lot of different opinions about that.
Sure.
But, I think what I would love to talk about, especially, to the listeners, is, how people are feeling. Maybe not so much the why, but the how people are feeling now in the aftermath of this. Because I know by talking to so many people personally, and even seeing people in the hospital here, in the emergency rooms here this week, so many people actually coming to the emergency department with pain, physical pain, panic attacks, chest pain, headaches, a whole host of different symptoms, and it's really taking a toll on people. And so I think the first thing is actually just being able and willing to talk about it. That's actually one of the strategies, if we start talking about strategies to actually help people process it.
Mm-hmm. No, no doubt. I mean, talking about it's definitely one thing. And, I'll be real candid. I mean, I was supposed to take a trip and go to see Coldplay in an outdoor concert. And my wife, Susie, she felt really uncomfortable going. And I mean, that's one of those things, and I can respect and understand that. And I didn't want her to do something that she was uncomfortable with. And granted, we went to a concert this past Tuesday, saw the Shins over Comerica, and I mean, it was an indoor arena with, metal detectors, and you had to get through security. But it's one of those things where I know that the Israelis in Israel, they deal with terrorism every single day, almost every day. And when a bomb does go off in a pizza parlor or in a disco, that doesn't preclude them from doing that again the next day. And I really believe deep down in my heart, if we avoid those types of venues, then they've won. And we don't want them to win. We want to be able to live our lives.
Yeah, so that's actually, Bob, one of the strategies that a lot of people use that is very positive, which is taking action, doing something. A lot of us, we have a tendency to feel paralyzed, sometimes paralyzed with fear, and this can be really harmful to our bodies, to our spirits, to our families. So that idea that you have of, what, we're going to just press on. We're going to show them we're not going to stop going out in public and doing our thing, and whatever your thing is. And so that's actually a positive, active attitude, and that's actually helpful to people to actually have something to do. That's one of the things I want to recommend to the folks that might be sort of feeling some symptoms. And the first thing I would say is if you are feeling symptoms related to this, and it can be a whole array of different symptoms. It can be anything from insomnia, difficulty sleeping, to being irritable, to feeling overt panic and panic attacks, chest pain, difficulty breathing, stuff like that. You're not alone. There's millions of people are feeling like this right now, and it's actually a natural response to a big trauma like this, and our minds are trying to process this. So one thing I would tell people is, trust me, you're not alone in this, and lots of people have this, and I think that some people have a tendency to feel like they're the only one, and they're sort of suffering, and they're the only ones that are feeling a certain way. But with this, there's millions of people that are struggling with this right now.
And I think as you described it, it's part of the healing process. And, whether it is the anxiety from an event like this, or the anxiety one is dealing with relationship to their spouse or family member that is challenged with a illness like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. That's the great thing about these support groups is that you're not alone. There are others that are feeling that same way. I kind of think that maybe one of the recipes for success in healing is to unplug. I mean, the television isn't really our friend. The news isn't really good, and they're as miffed as we are, and they're trying to find solutions, and I'm not sure we're going to find a solution.
Yeah, I agree. One of the first things I would recommend is don't be afraid to turn the TV off for a while. You're unlikely to miss anything urgent, if you just turn it off for a while. And we have a tendency to, we want to be informed, and I know lots of people watch stuff and listen to stuff continuously, and they don't want to miss anything. That actually can be an unhealthy thing.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. My daughter Jessica, who lives down in Tucson, and she's a nursing student at U of A, her next-door neighbor in her sorority last year was at that concert, and she left about an hour early so that she could catch a plane to get back to Tucson so she could be in class on Monday morning. And she's dealing with survivor's remorse and survivor's guilt, if you would. Jessica tells me that an acquaintance that wasn't a real good friend, but an acquaintance of hers did get killed in that event. And it's hard. I mean, it really is. It's hard to process. And I think that, you've given, some good advice as we wrap up our first segment here. Is there any final thoughts that, I don't want to spend our whole time talking about this tragedy, but certainly I talked about at the top of the show, the emotional pain that some of us feel. And I mean, it can seem real. I mean,
it's very real. I would just tell people it's very real, it's very common, and there are strategies to deal with it effectively. And maybe we talk about some more things after your break.
Well, yeah, and I just on a quick note before we take our break, Diamondbacks.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you,
D-backs.
I have seen some great baseball in my day. I grew up a Baltimore Oriole fan. I went to a couple World Series games with the Orioles. I was there at Game 7 for the Diamondbacks. But that game,
it was amazing.
It was one of the best games I have ever seen. That Wednesday night was amazing. I think they're for real. We got a game tonight, and you know what? I think Kershaw's going to go down. I like the Diamondbacks. I'd like to see them win in 5, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, we're up against a break. We got a little Bruce Springsteen, Dancing in the Dark, taking us out. It's Friday. I've got Dr. Ben Bobrow. He's the Chief Medical Officer of the PainProject.com. Stick around. We got our second segment coming right up.
Hey, Money Radio listeners, this is Gary Kaltbaum. Make sure you tune in for my show, Investor's Edge. You'll get my take on the markets and the world and what to look out for tomorrow. Investor's Edge is one of Money Radio's longest-running shows, so don't miss it.
You can listen to Investor's Edge Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. here on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
I'm going to share with you the secret of where entrepreneurs hang out. They're part of the community alliances. Go to alliances.com, ELIANCES.com. This is where entrepreneurs go, investors go. This is where celebrities go. This is where people build businesses. Go to alliances.com, ELIANCES.com. You wonder where Richard Branson's featured? Go to alliances.com and hear the interview. Alliances.com, ELIANCES.com.
Are you a business owner? Are you maximizing the internet and social media to grow your business? Then you need to check out Money Radio's premier technology show, Fast Turtles Digital Pros with Eric Olson and Graham Ware. These two digital wizards will educate and give you the latest information on all things digital, social media, SEO, PPC, and digital engagement. This is the future. Don't miss out and tune in Mondays at 1 and Saturdays at 8 for Fast Turtle Digital Pros exclusively on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
Did you know that some travel stocks are up over 300% in 5 years and even 1,400% in 10 years? Visit privatedealguide.com and learn how you can diversify your portfolio into the travel industry and sign up for your free report titled Why Invest in Travel and Tourism. Go to privatedealguide.com now. All material should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.
Starting October 11th, all eligible voters will get a ballot in the mail for November's ballot-by-mail election. Details at azcleanelections.gov/November election.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and I'm your host, Bob Roth. And if you're just tuning in, we're on our second segment. I've got Dr. Ben Bobrow here. He's the Chief Medical Officer of the PainProject.com. And in our first segment, we were talking about pain, but the pain we were talking about was more of an emotional pain. And if you missed that, go up to our website at CypressHomeCare.com, click on the media button, and in the drop-down, you'll see a button that says radio show, and you'll be able to catch the first segment that we did here this afternoon, and you'll be able to catch about 175 others that we've been doing since 4.5 years ago. So I want to get back and talk about, not so much the tragedy that happened, but how it has consumed the American culture and all of us. It seems to be the conversation at the water cooler, the conversation that we're having with family members and friends. And, you brought up a very good point, because I talked about it's, the emotional pain, and you made it very clear. It's real. It's real pain that they're feeling. And, one of the things that, I look to you because of what you know and what you see in the ER setting is people are looking for ways to get the escape from this pain. And And I have to believe that people are, anxious, they're stressed, so the next step they do is they try to self-medicate. And, Ben, I think about alcohol. I think about medications, Valium, and other, sedated-type drugs that they may take, and then marijuana. I'd love to get your point of view on this and really how to maybe leave a message for our listening audience and saying, what self-medication isn't really your answer. There's other ways to deal with this and cope with the tragedy that just happened.
For sure. People have to come to terms with it. They have to process it and hopefully, do something in a healthy way. And so, what is very common, those things you said, things like alcohol, having a good stiff drink. Nothing wrong every once in a while with a good stiff drink, but if that's your strategy to deal with when you're feeling really stressed, that is not a healthy thing. In fact, it can lead to all kinds of problems. And, we really do have, I think we even talked about this last time I was here, we have an epidemic of addiction. In the country.
We do.
In fact, our previous Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy, who I was a big fan of, he called our addiction problem the biggest public health problem of our generation. Not just of the day, of our generation.
Right. And I think I remember you saying that we created this.
Well, when I said that, I was actually referring to the opiate part of it. So
right.
we have lots of different addictions. We have alcohol and other drugs and opiates and anti-anxiety medications. There's lots of different things to get addicted to. And, we're actually learning a lot more about addiction. And all these different addictions are actually related. And some of us actually have a propensity towards that, a genetic propensity. We know that, and it actually we're really looking at addiction as a brain disease now, and so the point is when you're feeling stressed and you're feeling anxious because of things like the tragedy of this week, that you have to find a healthy way to manage that. We can talk about some of that later, but for sure, alcohol is not a healthy way to manage that. The other thing is, people commonly take anti-anxiety medications like Xanax and Ativan and Valium, and I'm not passing judgment at all on people that do take those, but those are very potentially addictive medications, and you have to be incredibly careful about that. And I'm not saying there's never a place to take that. I'm not saying that at all.
Sure.
But you have to be really, really extra careful because people can quickly become addicted.
And it's interesting because you mentioned those drugs and you mentioned in the same context alcohol.
Yeah.
And how many consumers in our community are doing both?
Yes.
And we did a show a couple weeks ago. We actually did 2 back-to-back talking about fall prevention. And you mix alcohol with prescription medication like those that you just described. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
And, we need to try to be mindful, and we can talk about more of this in the second half, to really figure out ways to cope and deal with pain and not be self-medicating and not look for that magic pill.
Yes.
Because there's so many things that I've learned from you and learned from others that you can do to get the same kind of relief and not put something in your body. It's more doing.
Yes, there are much, much healthier ways to deal with it. And sometimes people have to sort of be taught those, and there's some skills that people have to learn. Some of us, have to be shown how to do it. And some people sort of have natural resiliency skills that they just, were God-given skills. But definitely everybody can do that and get better. And then the other thing, of course, is the opiate problem that we talked about before. Many, many people actually, when you take opiate medications like these medications, Vicodin and Percocet and Norco, things like that, they actually also have an anti-anxiety effect. And so part of what helps people when they take them is it actually relieves that inner sense of restlessness and turmoil, and it relaxes them. So people should be aware of that also. But for sure, there's better ways to deal with processing these terrible things that we're exposed to.
In the second half of our show, I want to talk about those ways to do it. But I do want to pick up and if you missed our August 4th show, you gave some incredible statistics, and if memory serves me correct, I think you said that 1/3 of our population in the last year has taken an opioid. Was that right?
It's actually even a little bit higher.
It's a little bit higher.
About 38%. Yeah.
38% of
crazy.
the American people have taken an opioid.
Yes.
Wow.
And we in America, we have the dubious honor of taking the vast majority of all the opiates in the world. Upwards of 80 to 90% of all the opiates in the world are consumed by our country, with 5% of the population.
That's crazy.
It is. We have a real issue, and this is part of the reason we started the Pain Project, was to help people understand this and actually keep people out of falling into that river, and if they have fallen in, helping them get out of the river.
Well, I was presenting a couple days ago, and I know I shared this with you before the show, with a pretty large bank here in town, and met with their trust officers. And towards the end, I took questions, and obviously these officers are managing a lot of money for a lot of wealthy people in our community. And the question came up about opioids. And I said, what do you want to know? And, resoundingly, they know that they have clients that are abusing them. And they wanted to know, what do I know, and where should they go for relief? And I think that's just a microcosm of what I just saw. But, I mean, I imagine in the ER and in your profession,
It's everywhere in our society. It's just across our whole society. It cuts all demographics.
So how do we come to a solution? I mean, the governor's obviously has got a war on it, and they're talking about limiting the amount of prescriptions a physician can write.
Yeah.
And I can see a physician maybe being a little annoyed, because if he's got somebody or she's got somebody that's really sick that needs more than 5 for the week or whatever. I mean, I don't know what quantities they come in, but they feel like they should have to be able to, or they can be able to do that.
Yeah. I just wrote an article for what's called the Arizona Physician. It's the magazine that goes out to all physicians in the state through the Arizona Medical Association. And I talk about this, and I talk about what we say the supply side. So economics. So there's a supply side of economics and a demand side of economics. I guess this is great for Money Radio TV. I'm tying it all in. And so maybe if after the break, I'll talk about the idea of supply, like looking at the supply side of opioids and the demand side of opioids. And in this article, I actually make that, I use that analogy,
right?
Because the governor's efforts, which are so good and really needed to avoid, people from prescribing way too many medications, are really the supply side of the equation. But what we also need just as much are the people, the public, to understand that they really don't want to be taking these medications routinely, and they shouldn't be. And that's what I call the demand side. And so both approaching it, which we're doing really strongly from the supply side, but also from the demand side, really making the case to the public, helping them understand this.
And educating.
Yes.
I mean, knowledge is power,
Yes.
and giving them that power to make an informed decision is really what it's all about.
And that's what, again, thepainproject.com, you're going to see lots of info on that website.
Well, we're up against a break here, Ben. It is halftime at Health Future. Stick around. We'll be back in a couple minutes for our third segment.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
Tropical storm Nate may strengthen into a hurricane as it takes aim at the Gulf Coast. Meteorologist Allison Chinchar.
Right now, winds are at 50 miles per hour, gusting to 65. The forward movement is pretty fast at about 21 miles per hour. Now, the concern will be once it gets back out over the open Gulf. This is where we expect it to intensify. The question is, how quickly can it intensify before it makes landfall?
More employers will be able to opt out of providing birth control following rule changes today by the Trump administration. Correspondent Caitlin Collins.
This is a very hot topic that religious groups have long opposed. A lot of those groups are groups that supported the president throughout the election. Now, this is something that has been talked about for some time now, the possibility of this happening.
Wall Street is headed lower. The Dow Jones Industrial Average off by 16 points. The S&P 500 down 5. The Nasdaq off 2.5. I'm Ann Cates.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated, price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-461-4545. That's 800-461-4545. 800-461-4545. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health issuing company and other factors. Not available in all states.
Your house a little too warm? You call the AC guy. If you think the market is overheating, you call one of the experts you hear every day on Money Radio.
Hi, I'm Johnny Dean.
And I'm Rick the Professor Plum.
Every day on Bucket Strategy Investing, we're talking about financial planning, investment decisions, and retirement strategies.
We focus on wealth education and the strategy designed for the needs you have today
and the goals you have for the future. Tune in to Bucket Strategy Investing.
And call in with questions.
Retirement strategies, taxes, Social Security, and more. That's what we're talking about on Bucket Strategy Investing.
Do you know the benefits of using your IRA to invest in private equity deals? Over the past 10 years, private equity had almost doubled the return of the S&P 500. The superior returns and lower volatility make a great addition to any portfolio. PrivateDealGuide.com is now offering a free download of their private equity investment guide. Go to PrivateDealGuide.com today. All material should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.
Did you know azbigmedia.com was named the website every Arizonan should know? For more than 30 years, AZ Big Media has brought readers the state's most compelling business and lifestyle news through newsletters and award-winning publications such as Arizona Business and Ranking Arizona Magazine. Stay informed with all your business, real estate, travel, and lifestyle news at azbigmedia.com. See why BuzzFeed named azbigmedia.com one of the top websites in Arizona. Visit azbigmedia.com today.
It's back. Showroom football at Casino Arizona. Join the Fanatic hosts, Rock, Manuch, Fooey, Bauer, Monty, and others all season long at Casino Arizona every Monday night to win your share of over $20,000 in cash and prizes. The promotion's free. Just be 21 or older, a member of the Player Rewards Club, and be present in the showroom. That's Mondays at Casino Arizona, Loop 101 in McKellips for Monday's Showroom football.
To relieve muscle cramps in your legs and feet, use TheraWorks Relief. This fast-acting foam is clinically proven to relieve leg and foot cramps. Get TheraWorks Relief today at TheraWorksRelief.com.
Bruce Bale with Your Money Now. Americans increased their borrowing at a slower pace in August than in July. The Federal Reserve said total consumer credit slowed to a gain of $13.1 billion after a gain of nearly $18 billion in July. Because consumer spending accounts for about 70% of economic growth, economists track it closely. Consumer spending was sluggish in August, leading economists to mark down their expectations for third quarter growth. The Nordstrom family is scrambling to salvage its plan to take the upscale retailer private after running into trouble raising financing for a leveraged buyout. The Wall Street Journal says the founding family, whose members still run Nordstrom, and the private equity firm Leonard Green are considering a new structure for the buyout that would include less debt. On Wall Street, stocks are still lower, but the losses have been trimmed quite a bit. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 9 points. The Nasdaq Composite is down 2. That's Your Money Now.
I have some auditing and forecasting for you two robo-accountants. Can you have it done Friday?
We never sleep, Mike.
Or take breaks, or sick days.
It's official.
Robots have entered the world of accounting, and certified management accountants have mastered the 11 most critical practice areas in business, which means they'll be the ones calling the shots.
So then you'll have it done Wednesday.
No, Friday.
We need a couple of days to get in the zone.
Friday.
The CMA certification. You've got to earn it. Visit CMAcertification.org for details.
For nearly 100 years, folks have trusted Blue Star medicated ointment to relieve the pain and itching of almost any skin irritation.
It works on my son's dry itching feet and their jock itch.
I had this rash on my neck. Nothing worked until Blue Star.
Blue Star worked great on my ringworm without steroids.
My wife and I have been using Blue Star for years. It's never let us down.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And we are on our third segment, and if you're just joining us, I've got Dr. Ben Bobrow here in the studio. He's the Chief Medical Officer of the PainProject.com. And my man James, my engineer, my buddy, I am telling you, thank you for paying tribute to an incredible musician and a great loss for all of us.
I love Tom Petty.
I did too. I mean, you know, the crazy thing about this, Ben, is he was 26 years old. And I'm sorry, 66 years old, not 26, 66 years old. And that was the same age that my mother was. And he died of a heart attack, the number one killer out there. Yeah. And what was interesting, too, is I don't know if you remember that day when that news got announced. I think it was the same day as the tragedy that happened in Vegas. So it was a Monday, and they announced that he was dead. And then they pulled back and said they couldn't verify it. And my daughter, who is a journalist, who saw that, and we talked about it afterwards, somebody jumped the gun because he technically hadn't passed. He was on life support. And he ended up passing later that evening. But tragic, absolutely tragic. Some of my favorite songs are like Free Falling and I Won't Back Down. Just a great, great musician. Saw a couple of his concerts.
Really?
Always wore purple. You know, it was always like the Purple Palace.
Nice.
Well, enough about Tom Petty, and what a great loss. And we're talking about loss here, and we're talking about the pain and suffering one feels, you know, for a number of different reasons. And, you know, we've been talking about anxiety, and we've been talking about stress that has caused a lot of the pain that many in our society feel. We also talked about 38% of the American population taking an opioid is just phenomenal in the last year. But, you know, one of the things we left off on our second segment was we talked about supply and demand. I want you to talk a little bit more about that as we close that segment out.
Right. So I think, we were talking about you were talking about some of the governor's initiatives, which are really very important and very well directed, well intentioned. In fact, we're one of 6 states. Arizona is one of 6 states that have declared a state of emergency on the opioid epidemic, and I think it's really an important thing. It shows that how vital of a topic this is, and this is actually the governor's number one health initiative is to mitigate the opioid deaths. We have over 2 a day in Arizona. Over two people died today.
2 people.
Yeah.
2 people died today.
Yes.
From an opioid.
2 people died yesterday. 2 people will die tomorrow.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, they're often young people, really young people, and so I think that it's really important that we're regulating what we prescribe much more carefully, and there's a whole bunch of kind of rules about that now. But also, just as important is helping the public understand that they really don't want that. So I call this the supply and demand side. And I think until we help the public understand the demand side of it, we're actually not going to make huge headways, because it's very easy to get those medications from other sources. They're
It
everywhere. You know, they're out there, and people can get them easily. And I have to tell you, as we're prescribing less, people are using more illicit drugs, and they're trying. I believe people are trying to sort of medicate a lot of their pain, and it's not a good way to do it. It's not a healthy way, and in fact, it can, as we've seen, it can be lethal, and that's really what I'm really passionate about talking about.
Well, you talk about the supply side,
yeah.
And if you recall, on August 4th, we had James Shipp here with us, and James had just recovered from a rotator cuff surgery as well as a bicep tendon repair, and he shared with us he got a prescription for like 40 pills. And he got 2 refills on this thing.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't need them. And I think the vast majority of people take them. And whether they use them or not, my question is how many people are stockpiling them in their medicine cabinets? And we all hear about how bad it is to flush them down the toilet. There hence is the problem, the supply side.
They're out there.
They are out there.
Right.
And that's crazy, the stat that you gave us. 80 to 90% of the opioids that are used are in the country are used here in the United States, which represents about 5% of the world's population.
Yeah, and what we talked about last time was, I feel part of the problem. Physicians were inadvertently responsible for this. And so we're all part of the solution together.
Right.
People, the public, healthcare systems, physicians, pharmacists, the government, everyone, we really have to fix this. And like I said, we have more people dying of opioid overdoses now than car crashes.
Wow. That's hard to put my arms around that one, but that's amazing. And then, here we are talking about older adults, and that's what our show is about. And older adults are experiencing loss every single day, and they're losing not just loved ones, but they're losing their physical capabilities, their mental capacity. They're seeing loved ones struggling, and they're seeking that type of self-medication, and many of them are getting prescriptions, not so much for the opioid, but maybe the anti-anxiety drugs that you were talking about before, Valium and Xanax and some of those. And that's, a really great way to dovetail into, okay, so how do we manage this pain, Ben? What's the best recipe? And I know that exercise is a big one. I mean, pumping that adrenaline through your veins and your arteries is a big, big deal. And I'm one that used to be a former athlete, and I hated all that stuff. But afterwards, I always felt really good. And I felt like I was high, but high on life. I mean, feeling really good. I have to imagine that's one of them.
For sure. There's a whole host of different strategies. I think kind of at the top of the list for me, what I think and I work with people about is this idea that we call self-efficacy. And that is a term. Self-efficacy basically means that you believe you can do it. You believe you can get better. You believe that that you can overcome things. And we all have we call it the inner Tigger. People have Tigger and there's a Tigger and Eeyore. We all have an inner Tigger. Sometimes we lose it for short periods of time. Sometimes even long periods of time. That's part of we go through these traumas in life. It's life. It's not pretty, it's not easy, but it's life, and so sometimes we lose our Tigger for a while, and helping people refine that is really important. All the studies show that people that have self-efficacy, that actually believe that they can do it, that they're going to get better, they do get better. And so I'm not minimizing pain. I'm not saying pain isn't real, but I'm telling people, especially people who have chronic pain, that's pain that they've had for 3 or 6 months or longer. And, sort of chronic things, and the common ones are knee pain, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. Those are some of the chronic pains. There's lots more, but those are the common ones. By far and away, the things that help people the most is, people taking an active role in their management. So not just saying, I gotta have a pill, I gotta have a whatever kind of pill, and especially a prescription medication pill. That's not the answer long term. Again, short term for something that they, broke something, that's different. But long term, it's not good. The people don't get better by far and away. Like you talked about, the active things are what help people get better and stay better.
I love your analogy of, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and Eeyore. And I'm certainly one of those Tigger guys. I always talk about.
You are.
I always talk about the glass being not half empty but half full. And I had a conversation with my own dad not too long ago, who's going to be 82 years old very, very soon, and he was fixated in this conversation about what he's lost. And my response to him was, just think, you're going to be 82. How many of your friends didn't make it this far? I mean, how blessed are you to be here? And I talked about this on a previous episode. I had Dr. Martha Galati, who's chief of cardiology from U of A, here, University of Arizona, and we talked about he had a heart attack and what he was going through both emotionally as well as physically. So I want to pick up more on this.
Yes.
That Tigger, Eeyore, and really just the way you view life.
Yes. And we know now, it's not only your emotions. That can help your heart and your blood pressure and your immune system, all kinds of things like that.
Well, I talked about earlier the show that I missed this week, Coldplay.
Yeah.
James, Coldplay, thank you. Awesome. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. I've got Dr. Ben Bobrow, who's the Chief Medical Officer of thepainproject.com. Come on back. We got our fourth segment coming right up.
Every morning at 8 a.m., get timely market updates, breaking news on market movers, and strong analysis on financial topics to help you plan, invest, insure, retire, and stay retired. Don't miss Mastering Money every morning at 8 a.m., Monday through Friday. Hear best-selling author and wealth manager Steve Jurich, along with his great lineup of financial experts, CPAs, and attorneys. Mastering Money now at 8, right here on Money Radio, AM 1510 and 105.3 FM. See you there.
Get total freedom in your life safely and quickly. Build wealth and passive income so you never worry about working till you drop, losing your job, or retiring in poverty. Hi, I'm Steve Davis, an investor in thousands of units over the years. Now it's your turn. Del Walmsley has been my mentor for nearly 25 years, and he's taught over 100,000 people just like you the principles of financial freedom through live one-on-one mentoring at Lifestyles Unlimited and his national radio show. I'm excited to tell you about the real estate workshop that changed my life. The workshop gets you on the inside of what we do and what we believe and unlocks the 5 ways we make money in real estate. Just like your personal trainer, Lifestyles Unlimited will motivate, encourage, and teach you so you can get in the best financial shape of your life. Call 866-971-8970 or go to luiphoenix.com. That's luiphoenix.com to register for the workshop that will change your life and let you stop worrying about working till you drop, losing your job, or retiring in poverty.
Are you a business owner? Are you maximizing the internet and social media to grow your business? Then you need to check out Money Radio's premier technology show, Fast Turtles Digital Pros, with Eric Olson and Graham Ware. These two digital wizards will educate and give you the latest information on all things digital, social media, SEO, PPC, and digital engagement. This is the future. Don't miss out and tune in Mondays at 1 and Saturdays at 8 for Fast Turtle Digital Pros exclusively on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
Equip yourself for high-performance sleep. Get your beauty rest for less during the Beauty Rest High-Performance Sleep Sale. Visit BeautyRestRetailers.com or get yours at Spencer's TV and Appliance.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are on our fourth segment. If you're just tuning in, I've got Dr. Ben Bobrow here in the studio, and he is the Chief Medical Officer of The Pain Project. And the best way to get to him is go to thepainproject.com. and learn a little bit about some of the great things he's doing. There'll be ways to get in touch with him in his office, and if you need to come in to see him for treatment, that's where you go.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we're really offering is people can online, using a HIPAA-compliant telehealth system, can actually connect with a licensed therapist that can help them with these types of things that we're talking about.
You know, there was a press release that the Pain Project put out back in June. And, I mean, just the opening statement just says a lot, and that is chronic pain has become a leading cause of disability and a major public health problem. And, you know, one of the things that you said on our show back on August 4th is that as human beings, you know, the best to our knowledge, the most pain one would feel is in their 40s. And, you know, you would think that when you're in your 70s, 80s, and 90s, you'd be in a lot more pain, but you're telling me that's not really the fact. At least that's what I remember.
You're right. So actually rates of chronic pain actually start to back off, and there seems to be an association with the busiest, you know, most stressful time of your life when you have work and family and all these obligations.
Or you're in the sandwich generation. You got parents, you got kids.
Yes.
You know, all of that coming at us. It is amazing how much consumes our time. And, you know, Ben, we're close to the same age. And, you know, you think about how...
Yeah, but mine are 53 city miles. Yours are highway miles. Yours are much easier miles, years.
I won't disagree with you. I don't know if I could have really been able to achieve and do the things that you did in practicing medicine. And certainly you've got plenty of experience. And in that regard, I mean, you think about what we get done in a day. You know, our parents and our grandparents would take weeks, sometimes months to do. I mean, we get so much done, so consumed with all these things because we have all this stuff readily available.
It's certainly coming. Things fly at us pretty fast now, I think, compared to in decades or generations before, where it wasn't so much 24/7 rapid fire. You know, we're all so connected all the time. I personally, Bob, I think that's part of what people are struggling with, because I don't think our brains evolved over millions of years to be this connected all the time. I think we actually evolved to have some downtime, and we don't have nearly as much downtime now. And I think it actually causes some chronic fatigue for us, and chronic mental fatigue.
You know, we've talked about this here on our show. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but I wrote a piece for Love and Life After 50 and the Jewish News, and it was actually talking about digital detoxing, because we are so plugged in. And, you know, we don't have that downtime. And when you think about having that downtime, Ben, that's when creativity starts. And if we're so plugged in, we're putting out fires, we're responding, we're deleting junk mail. I mean, I get over 200 emails a day. And, I mean, just to manage the traffic is a task. And
I think all of that is related to these things we're talking about, these chronic stress, even chronic pain, chronic insomnia. I think that the information technology age and the way it's coming at us is all related to that. You know, of course, there's no way to prove that. That's my theory. I agree there's no way to prove it, but that makes sense to me.
Well, it does. And I think one of the things that we should do as a society and certainly as a community, and it starts right here, and I try to practice it as well, is really put these devices down. You know, I try to, you know, walk away from the computer and my device and television at least 30 minutes, sometimes as much as an hour before I go to bed.
Definitely. A good strategy if you want to get a good night's sleep.
Yes. And I mean, that, you know, sleep is so important. And then, you know, you think about, you know, and I was guilty of this, and sometimes I still am. You know, the device is the last thing you touch before you go to bed. It's the first thing you touch when you get up in the morning. And nothing can be that important. You know, that partner that you are sharing a bed with, or you're sharing a life with, and your children and the ones that you love are the most important. And if they're surrounding you, then you should put that device away.
I agree.
I mean, I think that may be exactly what you said. Could be the root of some of the challenges we're dealing with.
It's definitely related.
It definitely is. You know, Ben, I want to kind of wrap up our show, and I want you to leave our listening audience with some final thoughts in terms of dealing with pain, managing, through some of the crises that they're managing, both from an anxiety standpoint, from a stress standpoint, and from a real pain standpoint. I'd love for you to just wrap things up if you could. I know you'll do a fantastic job.
Yeah. Well, I think we started off the show talking about the tragedies that, this Las Vegas tragedy. And then, of course, that's been built on some other recent tragedies, the hurricanes, and, it almost seems like one after another. And when you are paying attention to that stuff all the time, it takes a toll on you. Trust me, it's real, and you're not the only one that's feeling it. And those, you're feeling this, what we call the fight or flight response. You're reacting to it, and it causes all kinds of physiologic changes in your body. And they're not healthy things to have long term. Briefly, they're okay, but if you're having these chronic, reactions all the time in your body, it's not healthy. It affects your heart. It affects your immune system, all kinds of different parts of your body. And it can cause real pain. And so it's one of the things I want people to understand, that this is actually part of the whole chronic pain problem is related to this. There's definitely a tie-in with all of this together. And people, by learning to unplug more and to be more active and to learn some relaxation drills, I know we really didn't go through some of that stuff, they can get better. And again, those are the things that we set up thepainproject.com to help people. You can actually see a licensed therapist that will help you teach you these skills.
Love it. And it's that old adage, and I know it's a very cliche statement, but it's that definition of insanity. If you are still feeling pain, you've got to mix it up. You've got to make change in your life.
Try something different.
One of the things that, we're not here to talk about today, but I'm learning more and more. It's the fuel that you put in your body, and it's the foods that we eat, and the things that we drink really affect our behaviors, and sleep is the other part. So, all of that affects some of the challenges that we're dealing with relative to pain. So change is not a bad thing. Take it in small chunks. Don't do it drastically overnight. But make some change, and you might feel a lot better.
Yes. And the final thing is that life is change.
Life is change, and we got the Diamondbacks tonight. They're the Dodgers. You know what? Go Diamondbacks. And Ben, you're going off to New York, and I'm really envious of you because you're taking your two boys, and you're doing a trifecta. You're going to see the Yankees, you're going to see the Knicks, and you get to see the Rangers.
Yes.
Make some incredible memories. That's what it's all about. Make those memories and make them count. Thank you for being on the show. I definitely am going to have you back.
Thank you, Bob. Be well, everyone.
Make it a great day. Have a great weekend.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Hi, I'm Johnny D. And I'm Rick the Professor Plum. Every day on Bucket Strategy Investing, we're talking about financial planning, investment decisions, and retirement strategies.
We focus on wealth education and the strategy designed for the needs you have today
and the goals you have for the future. Tune in to Bucket Strategy Investing
and call in with questions.
Retirement strategies, taxes, Social Security, and more. That's what we're talking about on Bucket Strategy Investing.
Money Radio 1510
and 105.3 FM.
KFN in Mesa, Phoenix. With the market still settling, the Dow's down 7 points at 22,767. The S&P 500's down 3 at 2548. The Nasdaq's up 3 at 6589. Gold's up $3 at $12.76 an ounce, and oil's down $1.47 at $49 a barrel.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin